from this picture all the way to this picture, I guess we can say that this guy had a pretty decent recovery. And yeah, he did grow out his hair a bit, but you're not going to get that kind of improvement. This, I would say, this comparison over here between May and July is very conclusive, right? So he probably went to the doctor, and the doctor or dermatologist, whatever, is making a pretty decent assessment in his middle part, and we can see at least in the middle section. Hello everyone, and today we're back with yet another hair loss review video. Today we're on the trustless hair loss subreddit, the most popular hair loss community, not just on Reddit, but maybe even on the entire internet. So we're going to be looking at this user known as C. Marion Berry 2231 and their post. So let's look at what they said. So the title of the post is 24 Male, 9 months of dutasteride and oral minoxidil progress. June 2024, he writes, started oral minoxidil 2.5 milligram every day. I avoided finasteride due to fear of side effects. I was also using topical minoxidil, but stopped after 2 months. September 2024, finally bit the bullet and dutasteride 0.5 milligram every other day. Now, I'm just going to jump in here real quick, so unquote that. But there really isn't a huge difference between dutasteride 0.5 milligram daily versus dutasteride 0.5 milligram every other day. In the long term, it's going to be probably the equivalent serum DHT suppression and even scalp DHT suppression. One of my subscribers and a member of my Discord community made a calculator that models the pharmacokinetics of dutasteride and different dosing protocols, and even an approximation when it comes to scalp DHT suppression. So you can find that link in the description below, and yeah, hopefully that's useful for you guys. But anyway, let's get back to the post. C. Marion Berry 2231 writes, quote, December 2024, I saw some insane progress around this time and started taking 0.5 milligram of dutasteride every day. March 2025, I have basically reverted all the thinning, but the hairline is still cooked and is showing no signs of coming back. I have just upped the minoxidil dose to 5 milligram, considering a small hair transplant to recover the hairline in the future, but that's just hair greed. I have no side effects at all. In fact, I'd say my libido increased and my strength went up like 15%. I'm a powerlifter and measure it closely. I hope this helps. I'm happy to answer any questions, unquote. So just on the last point there, anecdotally speaking, I would say that when I took dutasteride, my libido went up as well. And it's unfortunate that in the Merck studies as well as the GSK studies, we only get the idea that people can only see a decrease in their libido. Maybe when they did the surveys, they should have asked people, how is your libido before and after finasteride or dutasteride? Because that gives the capacity in us seeing if there were people who actually had a higher libido after using these drugs. Who knows? You know, if they did that in the beginning, we'd probably be saying that dutasteride can increase your libido, right? More than it decreases it. But we don't know that for sure. Maybe future studies will be able to kind of gather that kind of data. In any case, when it comes to the whole, oh, my strength went up, guys, look, DHT, as it is endogenously produced, does not have any impact on your musculoskeletal system. So what does that mean? DHT isn't going to make you stronger. If you take DHT away, it isn't going to make you weaker. It is testosterone that has an impact on your musculoskeletal system and your ability to produce force, just to be strong overall. It's testosterone that maintains your muscles. Now, if you're injecting exogenous DHT-derived steroids, that's another thing. But how DHT is naturally produced in your body, it is not implicated in any sort of strength production or force production at all. So, let's get on with the post. We can see that this particular user on Reddit has some serious diffuse thinning going on in the midsection. Overall, I would say, just from the look of it, the area of his hairline seems to be relatively maintained in this angle. But yeah, the hair loss is mostly in the center of his scalp. Now, I do see some weird discolorations here and there, which some people might think, oh, it's the lighting. when in reality, I do think there probably is an extent of seborrheic dermatitis, like right over here, somewhere over here as well, especially in this spot right here, right? It might not look like anything to you guys, but I do see like some weird blotches of skin tone, and usually that's due to some kind of fungus. Anyway, let's go through the camera roll. And this was a night and day difference. Like, look at this. From this picture all the way to this picture, I guess we can say that this guy had a pretty decent recovery. And yeah, he did grow out his hair a bit, but you're not going to get that kind of improvement with just growing out the hair from here without doing any sort of medical treatment, right? He certainly was getting some kind of benefit from the oral minoxidil, especially at 5 milligrams, and the oral dutasteride at 0.5 milligram. Let's look at the other photos in the camera roll. So this was his hairline when he first started out. This is probably a Norwood, I would say a 3, if I'm going to be real with you, at least from how he's pulling back his hair. I think this is kind of like a Norwood 3-ish. Maybe the angle's kind of hard for me to see, maybe a 2.5 to a 3. So yeah, his hairline, as he said, was cooked when he started out. Over here, you can see that the hairline is kind of sparse. Even though he has some density behind the hairline and on the sides, the hairline itself directly is sparse. So he probably still has maybe a Norwood 2.5 to 3, I would approximate it at. And look over here, right? This is, I'm assuming this is another photo of when he started out, and it's very diffuse. You can see that he wet his scalp, he wet his hair. This is after the shower, presumably, and this is under harsh light. And I always say this, right? If you want to see if you're actually making improvements, get in the shower, wet your hair, come out of the shower, stand in a dark room, point the camera at your scalp, and make sure the flash is on, and take a photo. If your hair is able to improve or look better over time in the worst hair condition and lighting condition, that only means that your hair is getting better. And certainly it's not a realistic interpretation of how your hair looks in natural lighting or neutral lighting, but it is somewhat of a kind of controlled measure, right? The worst condition, the least favorable lighting condition. If you can progress in that, that means the medication's working. And then we have a comparison over here. Honestly, these two pictures aren't good comparison photos. Okay, clearly over here he has more hair. The hairs are thicker, they're longer. I guess maybe it's a comparison, but he did also kind of slick back the hair too as well with, But this, I would say, this comparison over here between May and July is very conclusive, right? So he probably went to the doctor, and the doctor or dermatologist, whatever, is making a pretty decent assessment in his middle part. And we can see, at least in the middle section of his scalp in July, he had a lot of recovery compared to May. Like, this is just objective recovery. And even the hairs there in the middle are kind of darker too. So these new hairs are more pigmented. So that's pretty interesting. Let's get a better close-up over here. And yeah, you can see it. There are more hairs in this midsection in July than there are in May. He certainly made a good recovery, and in only 9 months, which is pretty impressive. So let's look at the comment section to see people's reactions. A comment that I really like is from this user named DeliciousTart6920. They ask, why would you be afraid of oral finasteride side effects and not of oral minoxidil side effects? Awesome results, by the way, bro. And then our user, CMarionBerry2231, says, in hindsight, I should have been, ha ha ha, but I was quite ignorant at the time. And other people are asking, did you have any heart issues? And he says no. But I think another question would be, this guy was scared of finasteride, but then he jumped on dutasteride. So it is what it is, right? But as you can see, he's making a fantastic recovery. Everyone is saying great results. They're asking if he had a shed. He said he didn't expect a brutal shed. And he also buzzed his hair, but it didn't seem to have appeared, right? Maybe he did have a shed, but he wouldn't have noticed because, again, he buzzed his hair. Another Reddit user in the comment section, SaltLawfulness9154, says, great progress and density recovery. You live an active lifestyle too, so that's good. I could be wrong, but I swear to an extent some of our libido has to do with our confidence and perceived attractiveness. I rarely seen a jacked, good-looking dude say he felt such a low libido. I know labs and blood work matter, but feeling good about ourselves matters too. Keep up the good work, man. 100 emoji. And yeah, that's also true as well. When you start to look better, when you start to see improvements in your physicality, and also just getting out of something like hair loss, that's probably going to increase your overall mood, and you can shift your mental state to other things, right? Maybe now you're out of a bad mood, so you can have a higher libido. But I would also say maybe dutasteride had something to do with it. When you're increasing your free testosterone by, I think, 15 to 20% with dutasteride, it could be higher. I think it might be a bit higher. Then that could make the difference in your libido, right? It could increase your libido. But in any case, this guy had a fantastic recovery. I want to put these two photos side by side. This is a great recovery. Good job to this user. And you guys could possibly get a similar recovery too. All it takes is for you to, at the very, very least, try something like 0.5 milligrams finasteride every other day, or 0.5 milligram dutasteride daily, or 1 milligram finasteride daily, or 0.1% up to 0.3% topical finasteride daily, or 0.1% up to 0.25% topical dutasteride daily. All these things are options for you guys to get started to make a similar recovery, right? To have a chance to stop your androgenetic alopecia from progressing. So if you guys have any questions, I do hair loss consultations, links in the description below. There, I can go through the literature with you, try to answer your questions to the best of my ability, and also help you create a hair loss stack that you can take to your doctor and try to get, the ball rolling. So with that being said, thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.